We speak of something being bitter if it causes grief or if it's hard to bear. Something like bitter defeat, bitter failure. Somebody's death may be described as a bitter loss because it's really upset somebody, hurt them, caused a lot of grief. So bitterness has come to be used as a term for something that causes pain or grief, such as bitter remarks or the actions of bitter enemies. Or could say somebody fought to the bitter end, meaning a struggle of extremity, an extreme struggle, fighting till he couldn't fight anymore. And the biblical Greek words for pikros is bitter, pikraia means bitterness, and other derivatives. Pikros originally meant sharp or pointed. Then it was used more generally for anything that was penetrating to the senses. Something that had a pervasive smell or a shrill noise. And pikra was used for the bitterness of the taste of some plants initially, and then it finally found its use in speaking of personal experience when something was unpleasant or something bad happened that was unexpected. The words pikros and pikraia are used about 40 times in the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament. And only rarely did they refer to literal bitterness, such as reference to bitter water in Exodus 15:23. Usually, it's a reference to men who are the bitter ones when they are soured or cruel, such as in Ruth chapter 1 verse 20. There's 7 instances of these words in the New Testament. For instance, Matthew 26 verse 75. So in the Bible, it's obvious that the actual taste of something is meant. And it also means suffering of mind, body, something that's difficult to bear, something that causes animosity, reaction, something that's brought about by hatred or antagonism. Anybody have any thoughts or opinions? No? So, in the Bible, there's plenty of examples of bitterness. I'll just give one or two. 1 Samuel chapter 1 verse 10. Say about a woman, they can be bitter because they can't have children. Proverbs 17 verse 25. A foolish son is bitterness to his mother. Exodus chapter 1 verse 14. Slavery causing bitterness. Now that I can easily understand, especially say with Joseph, sold into slavery by his brothers, the last people who think would do it. And he must have been an element of bitterness. Why me? What have I done? I don't deserve this. But in spite of all this, he was loyal to God. And in the end, he realized why it had happened. So God could send him to Egypt, for him to become Prime Minister of Egypt and save a lot of lives. Of course, he didn't know then that when his family went to Egypt, there would be the birth of effect. Apart from Abraham, is effectively the birth of a nation. He didn't know that. And then there's consummate human pride. That can be a cause of bitterness. In Acts chapter 8 verse 23. So there's a lot of causes of bitterness. And what are the results of bitterness? I've got too many here to go through them all, but if you think about it, being bitter can be antisocial. A bitter person can be selfish, inconsiderate of other people. I don't care. I care only about me. I put me first. I don't care about you lot. Bitter people often withdraw from society, and even strangers avoid bitter people. As in Proverbs chapter 14 verse 10, nobody's happy around bitter people. They create that atmosphere around them, don't they? And it doesn't take long to pick up on somebody being bitter. The way they speak to people, the whole attitude. They might even have a confrontational attitude towards everybody. And then people have to watch what they're saying, watch what they're doing. They just can't be bothered to argue with people. And a bitter person rejects Bible teaching. James chapter 3 verse 4 says, "But if you have bitter jealousy and strife, stop being arrogant and lying against the truth." Bitterness accompanies the sin unto death. Job chapter 1 verse 25. It motivates gossip. Guess what so-so did to me? And then the bitter person tells one person and that person tells another, then it spreads. It happens all the time. Bitterness is a self-induced misery, like unforgiveness, and it produces chains in it. It's misery to others around the person. Two wrongs never make a right. You can't build your happiness on somebody else's unhappiness. Again, and keep emphasizing that all these things are demons as well. Bitterness is an emotion, also a demon of bitterness, either hiding behind it or causing it in the first place.
Same with jealousy.
Have you been reading this? That's the next thing you're going to want to. You've been looking at this when I was at the doors. Anybody, any thoughts, opinions?
Interesting.
It is, yeah. Well, last night, I was saying earlier, I found a book that I downloaded onto my Kindle, and I haven't looked at it. And it's covering all this, but in a slightly different angle. So I'm going to go through the book, and then I'm not sure the name of it, but I'll let you know later. It's on my. It covers all this type of thing, but at a different angle, and I think it covers each topic in a bit more depth. And I think this book is probably easier to understand than this. So we will go through it. And the other book talks about cancer and what causes it in the cells. But like I say, it's not as in-depth as this in some things. Other things then, it expands on more. So, I wish I'd known that other book before. Right there. For somebody who's been looking at this. Jealousy. Can anybody here put their hands up and say they've never experienced that? Even if it's over something small, it's easily done, isn't it? It's like somebody might have, say for me, a new motorbike, I think. And it's easily done.
Often starts in childhood.
Yeah. And yeah, it starts in childhood. And again, it's an emotion, but it's all, again, demon. I'm emphasizing all the way through these things can be demons because it's so important to know. As you said, Sean, starts in childhood. Once that gap is there, as soon as they see an opening, they're in. They go straight into the person. And they feed it constantly. And the Oxford Universal Dictionary defines jealousy as anger, wrath, indignation, or anxiety for the preservation or well-being of something. Also, the state of mind arising from the suspicion, apprehension, or knowledge of rivalry. Jealousy provokes a person to anger. For example, jealousy is the rage of a man. Proverbs 6 verse 34. And it's right, isn't it? People can be so jealous that they'll do anything to get at the person they're jealous of. I remember once one of my old mates, I was in my early 20s, and we were walking down to the shop and somebody had a brand new car. It was a nice car. And when we said, oh, look at that new car, he took his key out to scratch it just because it was new. I said, no, don't do that. I said, good luck to him. I said, he might have borrowed money to pay for that. And it was envy, it was jealousy. Damaging somebody's car just because it was new. I admit if, well, my bike is 12-year-old now, but if somebody scratched that, I wouldn't be happy. And if it went into the dealers to be worked on and they scratched it, I'd tell them straight, get that sorted. Sort that tank out. I want it looking exactly as it was before it came in. And jealousy is something that can affect a lot of your life, many areas. It can cause hatred. And it's like, if it causes hatred, it's the same as committing murder. But 1 John 3:15, whoever hateth his brother is a murderer. Jealousy is very often tied to the signs of envy, feeling discontent with another's advantage, and or covetousness, to ardently desire something that somebody else has. And when we got jealousy, if we don't rebuke it, we may willingly sin. Proverbs 27 verse 4, anger is cruel and fury overwhelming, but who can stand before jealousy? It could well be that the man meets a woman and she's like a model maybe, but then you get somebody else, one of his mates, who thinks, I want her, I'm going to get her. He's jealous, and he'll break up maybe a lifelong friendship to do it. It does happen. So does anybody know of any examples of jealousy in the Bible? Hard question, I know. And I don't think anybody's going to be able to give any. I wouldn't be able to.
The prodigal son and his brother. That's one.
All right, Sean, all right. Good one, yeah.
Cain and Abel.
What you was saying earlier,
I don't know if I was jealousy, it was,
but his brothers put him into prison
yeah.
because they didn't want him to be king or lord of the
Joseph.
yeah.
That's you, Joseph's brothers, yeah. Oh, all right, you got smart, Alex.
Cain killed Abel out of jealousy because God accepted Abel's sacrifice, but not Cain's.
Yes, it could have been jealousy.
It was his heart thing, so he was jealous that God accepted him and rejected him.
Could have been, yeah. So, some examples here. Smart, Alex, here.
Jacob and Esau. I give them all from the
Out.
start.
Genesis 37, verse 11. Joseph's brothers jealous of him, especially the coat, isn't it? Numbers 5, verses 11 to 31. I'm not going to read them all here, but says that when a spirit of jealousy comes over a man whose wife has been unfaithful, it'll bring a curse on the women, where water will go into her stomach, causing the thigh to rot and the belly to swell. And a lot of Christian writings don't clearly distinguish between jealousy and envy. And there's only a few verses in the New Testament mention jealousy, and a lot of these verses seem to refer to envy rather than romantic rivalry. James chapter 3 verses 14 to 16. If you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your heart, don't boast, don't lie against the truth. This wisdom is not that which comes down from above, but is earthly, sensual, and demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition are, there is confusion and every evil deed. I could read a few more, but I won't. I'll say one here. I don't usually quote anything by Catholics, but this one is spot on. The New Advent Catholic Encyclopedia equates jealousy with envy. It describes our envy as contrary to the golden rule taught by Jesus and contrary to the spirit of solidarity that should permeate all humanity. We shouldn't be jealous of each other, shouldn't envy of each other, anybody else. If God gives something to somebody, that's God's choice. And God's done it for a reason. And we should all be working to help each other, whether they're in a better position than you are or in a worse position. And especially help somebody if they're not so well off as you are. So anybody got any thoughts, opinions?
Mine's with the old Sunday school chorus. Envy, jealousy, malice and pride, they should never in my heart abide. Root them out, get them gone.
Oh, I've never heard that.
That's an old Sunday school song. It starts off, all the bunnies in the field of corn, envy, jealousy, malice and pride. Never in my heart shall abide. Root them out, get them gone.
I never heard that.
That's an old one. I heard that in Sunday school. And it's,
Very, very old one. I've heard that too.
yeah, I mentioned it here before.
Right, we've got about 10 minutes left, so see if there's we'll have a look at contempt now, and we leave it at, we finish on contempt, and then later on then first time we look at next week will be pride. So contempt. The Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary defines contempt as. Then anybody here got any ideas of defining contempt?
Bit like bitterness, isn't it?
So along the same lines, it would be, yeah.
Like contempt of court, that sort of thing. Sort of
No,
thing.
that's like a legal term.
Yeah, no, but I know that's legal too, but
No, what that means basically is disobeying the court, having a bad attitude towards the court. This means the human emotion or feelings of contempt. Mind you, a lot of courts are contempt anyway, so you can't be in contempt of a court that's in contempt. I'd love to say that to a judge. You're in contempt of court. Yeah, I'm going to be in contempt of this court. This court is contempt. I'd love to do that. Off the system. So, right, well, there's a few definitions given, and it says, the act of despising, the state of mind of one who despises. I think, well, yeah. The lack of respect or reverence for something, the state of being despised. Willful disobedience to or open disrespect of court, judge or legislative body. But for me personally, I wouldn't agree with that, because that's a legal term. It's not. That's not going to affect you biblically, maybe, unless it's a case of having respect for those put in authority above you. Job 31, verses 13 to 14. If I did despise the cause of my manservant or my maidservant when they contend with me, what then shall I do when God riseth up, and when he visiteth? Shall I answer him? Proverbs 11, verse 12. He that is void of wisdom despiseth his neighbour, but the man of understanding holdeth his peace. Again, I believe that contempt, again, you need Forgiveness, we need to seek forgiveness for that. Because if you have contempt for somebody, again, it can lead to anger, bitterness, all these things, can it? Examples of contempt in the Bible. Michal, David's wife, her contempt for David, when he sang pretty much naked in front of God. And I think that it wasn't so much what he was doing that, but he'd replaced the father as king. I suspect that had a lot to do with it. It says here, but as the ark of the Lord entered the city of David, Michal, the daughter of Saul, looked down from her window, and when she saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, she was filled with contempt for him. So Michal, the daughter of Saul, remained childless throughout her entire life. So God punished her by not allowing her to have any children. So that shows how God feels about contempt, doesn't it?
It's like a hate.
Yeah, it's another good point there, like a branching off from hate, isn't it? Anybody got any opinions, thoughts, before we finish? We've come pretty much to the end of it today. Anybody thoughts, opinions?
Makes no sense if you say it, but
this is like, it's like theoretical. You can do things that are just theory and don't apply to people in their lives, but this actually does apply. And I think all of us have experienced some of this at some time or other. I think everybody looked at something somebody's got, think, oh, I wouldn't mind having one of them. But it's not, I think it's not a case of thinking, I'd like to have one. It's, how far do you take that?
What can I do to get it off them?
Yeah. I know over here, it's somebody like my mate, somebody had a new car and, scratch that now. But in America, a lot, the more common attitude is, or at least used to be, look at that car there, I'm going to work hard, start a business, I'm going to get one. I'm not saying everybody had that attitude, of course, but over here, it's more prevalent over here. I can't like him, he's got a new car. When I first had my bike, people said to me, how can you afford a bike like that? It was, for a bike, it was cheap. It was new, but it was cheap. They were selling cheap. And when I said to one woman, and she's a hard-line communist, the Tories had that bike for you. No, nothing to do with the Tories. Yes, it is. So I went down to a dealer in Cardiff, put a deposit down. 6 months later, the bike was delivered. No. Yeah, carry on, I said. Think what you want. She didn't save her money up. She was spending it and she had no money to buy anything. I saved all my life and I bought the bike. It was envy, it was jealousy. Anybody got any closing thoughts on what we've done today?
yeah, what you said, you want, you like this car, you want that, you get the car and then you're not happy with it after a while. So, all that, thought,
It's a good point, that is.
yeah,
Yeah,
You want better one after?
yeah.
yeah. So why did I get that? Just probably would show off for his friends or, whatever.
Yeah, there is. It's an excellent point.
Okay.
Yeah, fair play. Again, comes on to what we're going to look at. Soup next week. Pride, isn't it? Pride, arrogance. Look what I've got.
It doesn't satisfy you anyway.
No. I had my bike new, as I said, and it's 12 years ago, and I'm not going to get rid of it. It's not the latest and greatest now. I don't care. I've got what I want. And as long as I can ride a motorbike, that's the bike I'm going to keep. So, like I say, Louise, I think you're spot on there, Louise.
Okay,
It's right though. You are right. Charlene, have you got any thoughts? None?
Right?
Good.
That was really good. You did that to me. Thanks for that.
That's all right. I'm glad to be able to come here and do it. Jules? No? Sean?
It was great, excellent. Lot of good stuff in that.
Yeah, well, what I like about it,
yeah.
what I like about it is it's stuff you can apply
It's a
to
practical,
yourself.
yeah.
It's no good just having a lot of theoretical stuff that might sound good, but you can't use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need some of it to give like a foundation for what's been said, but you've got to be able to apply what you learn into your life. Otherwise, there's no point. Might sound good, might be enjoyable, but how do you apply it? That's the basis I work on. When I read something from the Bible or to do with deliverance, I think, right, that's good. How can I apply it to help people? That's what it's all about, isn't it? Helping people. Not becoming so full of knowledge, everybody thinks, wow, oh, look at him, he knows it all. Or look at her, wow. No, it's about being able to help people. That's what Jesus came here for, didn't he? To help us. He had all the knowledge, he had everything. He came here to help us. And with that, who'd like to close in prayer?
Johnny?
Charlie opened.
Go on, Reece. No, you went to.
You know he went to.
James.
Yeah, Jim.
Go on, James. Go on.
Sean? I know
Yeah, I will, yeah. Lord, we thank you for this time together. I pray that you will help us with these things, Lord. Lord, to get rid of anger, jealousy, malice, the contempt, and all these things we've discussed today, Lord. They can become so much part of our lives, Lord, and we want to be free of them. So help us today, Lord, to take what we've learned and get rid of these things in our lives so we can be totally free to be the people you want us to be. So help us now and help Wayne as he continues to study these things and share with us. That you will bless him and keep him, Lord, in each one of us now. Keep us strong in you. Keep us faithful to you, Lord, because that's all we want is more of you. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for that, Wayne.
That's all right.